good. This is the Wednesday, May 31st meeting at the Parkland City Council. I'd like to start off today. I'm sorry, call the roll, please.
Fish.
Here.
Saltzman. Udaly.
Here.
Fritz.
Here.
Wheeler.
Here. Obviously, our community has been subjected to a horrific crime this last week. I think it would be appropriate if we could start today's City Council meeting with a moment of silence to recognize those who were impacted by this horrific situation. Rick, Talishan, and Micah, in particular, the two young women who were subjected to hateful and bigoted language, who were terrorized on a MAX train in our community last Friday. I want to acknowledge that two of the three individuals, Rick and Talishan, they stood up for the right thing and they paid with their lives. And Micah, who is, we are so thankful now out of the hospital and he's healing. The two young women who are really struggling and need the support and the love of this community. To their families for giving us such incredible people that we and future generations of people in this great community can look back on and be inspired by their principled stand that they took and the courage and the bravery that they demonstrated, and to our whole community, which is working so hard to come together and struggling to come to grips with this situation. There are definitely better days ahead for all of us. I'd like to take, if I could, a moment of silence so we could all reflect on this situation. Thank you. And I just want to add, I know there are a number of employees at the Bureau of Development Services who are watching this. Rick Best, one of the victims of Friday night's event, was a highly valued member of the Portland community. He was an employee of the Bureau of Development Services, and I know there are people in that bureau who are struggling. And Commissioner Udaly, I want to thank you for spending time with them and helping them during this healing process. So thank you all. First item, please. Oh, I'm sorry, I have to read this. You know, can I not read this today? Do we all know what this says? Okay, thank you. First item, please.
Item 565, a request of Michael Withy to address council regarding micro-housing opportunities for affordable housing stock.
Is Michael here today? We'll check him later and see if he comes in late. Next item, please.
Item 566, request of Craig Rogers to address council regarding First Amendment.
Mr. Rogers, good morning.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Craig Rogers, and I have a concern with regards to communication, First Amendment. And let's go to where the street fee, which had no vote, no oversight, no sunset, you could raise it any time, spin on anything, go on forever. Outside of chambers at one time, Commissioner Steve Novick on TV said, It's the same people saying the same thing over and over again. Well, you know, if you perceive an injustice and you want to try and say something about it, you put a lot of skin in the game. And that's what we were doing, and eventually we defeated that. And you said something here. You said spending every meeting hearing from the same 5 middle-aged white guys, Wheeler said in an interview Wednesday. Now that sounds really similar to what Steve said about the same people saying the same thing over and over again. And you got to respect and understand that there's going to be people that perceive an injustice and want to speak and communicate to you about something that might be different than what you think. But I've heard it said that if you want to see, listen. Hearing is a step towards vision. And in last Sunday's New York Times, it said research shows that people hear only between 30 to 35% of what is said to them. And from my experience down here, it's less than that at Portland City Council. I believe it's a culture of dismiss and deny down here, and hide and seek. I've been involved enough to say that with experience. And I can point right to the examples, but with 3 minutes, I don't have the time. And our former mayor said that Portland could be one of the greatest cities in the world, and I had said, and I will say it again, how about one of the safest? It's more appropriate right now than ever before, one of the safest. But then, where does the money go? A lot of times it's like a magic show down here. It just disappears. And an example that I saw was Karen Lee Batts. She dies in a parking structure from hypothermia in January. And then just a couple months down the road, 2 department heads are showing the door, but you throw $300,000 at them when Karen Blatz, there was no safety net set up for her $350 rent that she couldn't make. But then there goes through. Those are all public funds. There's an injustice there. So people are having a hard time getting through to communicate with staff. And it's obviously why, because they don't want to get caught.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Item 567, request of Donna Cohen to address council regarding density and Eastmoreland Neighborhood Association's request for historic status.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Donna Cohen. Thank you for allowing me to be here.
Thank
and
you
thank
for
you
being
for
here.
opening the meeting the way you did, Mayor.
Thank you.
In a country where more and more people are separated by socioeconomic status, I would like to see Portland welcoming to everyone and providing housing to all income groups in all parts of the city. We know, for example, that lower-income kids do better in mixed-income schools. That's a really important aspect of this. I grew up in Boston. I appreciate historic architecture, but it shouldn't override the essential need for housing. I believe that sometimes the use of historic designation is, consciously or not, a method to eliminate some neighborhoods from sharing in solutions for affordable housing. Earlier this month, NPR had a segment called Section 8 Vouchers Help the Poor, but only if housing is available. I realize Section 8 is not the same as affordable housing structures or units, but the principle here is the same. The voucher in the 70s was designed to be, I'm quoting from an article that I gave to you, to be a ticket out of poverty, allowing families to use it wherever they want. With a portable voucher, families can move to places with jobs, good schools, and low crime. Yet in Dallas, Texas, about 60% of people who get vouchers are unable to use them. Part of the problem is this. Quote, developer Terry Anderson says she ran into problems when trying to build an apartment complex with 13 units set aside specifically for voucher holders. The city actually called a public hearing for our property, and about 250 angry residents showed up. Nicole Humphrey, who lives a couple of miles away from Anderson's development, says she's opposed to the project. In this neighborhood, most of us are stay-at-home moms with young kids. The lifestyle that goes with Section 8 is usually working single moms or people who are struggling to keep their heads above water. I feel so bad saying that, she adds. It's just not people who are the same class as us. When asked if others who did not have the same opportunities as her could live in her neighborhood, she said, "The problem with that is I hear a lot of, oh, we haven't been given this or that, oh, we haven't been afforded things you have been afforded." In almost the same breath, this woman denies opportunities to some people and then turns around and says it annoys her when people complain about not having the same opportunities as her. The height of hypocrisy. It's incumbent upon Portland to develop affordable housing in every part of the city. I don't know what part of the solution, I mean, maybe we need a PR program, literally ads or something, that get this message across to the city, that everybody can live everywhere and that every neighborhood should have affordable housing. I'm not sure how we go about that, but anyhow, and hope it's okay that I added some personal PR at the back of my package, but that's what I want to say.
Can I just make a comment quickly?
Yes.
Nick, your the mute thing's on there. Is it the green button there? Right.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony today, and thank you for making such an eloquent statement about locating affordable housing in every neighborhood. We are criticized regularly for putting affordable housing in what's called high opportunity neighborhoods because it's more expensive. The dirt's more expensive, the housing is more expensive. And so some say we should look to the lowest cost housing, which means building in places that don't have the same opportunity.
Right.
And what we understand is that when we build affordable housing, say in Southwest Portland, next to a high achieving school, those kids have a better chance.
Yes.
And so I think we embrace what you said, and we thank you for making such an eloquent statement for everyone participating and helping solve the affordable housing crisis. So thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next item, please.
Item 568, request of David Murphy to address council regarding right versus privilege to travel and protesters.
Mr. Murphy, are you here? And did Michael Withy show up? Next item, please.
Item 569, request of Mary Ann Schwab to address council regarding Washington High School Southeast Community Center.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm in the land of Oz, trying to find the answers here. Let me get this going here. That's my yellow brick road. I didn't have the ruby slippers. I've got my jacket. For the record, my name is Mary Ann Schwab. I'm here to support 100,000 households that live within 20 Southeast Dublin Coalition neighborhood associations. Good morning. My concerns are as such. In your letter to the Buckman neighborhood mayor, you asserted that the site had been appraised for $12 million and was identified as the primary reason the city could not pursue the city's option. Surely, Commissioner Amanda Fritz referring to the $12 million was not intentionally disingenuous in that letter. We have done our research. That land is $168 a square feet, which equates $7.5 million. I am here today to ask you, please, I'm begging you to stop the clock. This is what I feel needs to be done today. Exercise your right of first refusal. Today, there are no encumbered memorandums of understanding. Ours, the city's, expired on Memorial Day. And the developers doesn't take effect until June 1st through Trick or Treat 2019. We can start all over. Unbeknownst to the PPR legal counsel, they let a second memorandum of understanding go based on that $12 million. That's his problem. And so I'm saying that on May 11th, Courtney Whiston, Portland Public Schools interim operations officer, informed the Buckman neighborhood that PPS was willing to sell the property on contract. The city will have 60 days to obtain an appraisal, as will Portland Public Schools. On May 30th, the newly hired operations officer, Jerry Vinson, confirmed the city can secure the property on a contract by alerting his office today no later than 4 o'clock. And Ted Miller, that is exercising. You've got to tell him you want to exercise your governmental right of first refusal on this land. looking not just at the mayor, but also at the city commissioners, need to open space for our children. We're in dire need of open space with the ballooning condos going up in and around 12th and Morrison and 12th and Stark. Is there anyone on city council can say we don't need green space? Mayor Wheeler, our children have no voice but yours and mine. This land is their land well over a century and must be kept in perpetuity. On their behalf, I am begging you to alert Jerry Vinson. The city is exercising their governmental right of first refusal to purchase the 1.31 acre open field for parks as open space. Just as you please, I'm begging you, make the phone call today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Stop the clock.
Marianne, just so you know, we did go back after we were alerted to the fact that the previous option had gone away and that the other one doesn't start till tomorrow. Whether it's 7.5 million or 12 million, we just don't have that money. It's very expensive for less than 2 acres of parkland.
I challenge that. We've done our research, and we have not, no one in parks has really tried for available funding to do this. We have had no champion. I can rattle off all the community or the parks commissioners' names. No one in this room has supported the construction of this unit. And when we in the committee, the WAMO Advisory Committee, members, more than one said, we really want that land, that 1.31 acres. It was not the governance. It was not in the master plan in their notes. We want that land. It belongs to the children, and it needs to be kept open space. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, please.
The consent agenda?
Oh, I'm sorry. And Michael Withy, did he show up? Very good. Have any items been pulled from the consent agenda?
We've had a request for 584.
Just 584?
Just 584.
Okay, so my understanding is that the individual who would be speaking on 584 would be Ken Rust. He is not available, so we will have to move 584 to next week, and I hope that is acceptable to whoever pulled that item.
Mr. Lightning pulled that.
Well, can you be here next week so that Ken can? All right, fine. You can do it right now.
584.
Pull the item.
Right, you
584.
take it. Okay,
Come on up right now.
584. Amend intergovernmental agreement for cost sharing of levy-ready Columbia expenses not covered by IFA loans to extend program, provide additional funding, broaden allowable expenses, and amend parties to agreement.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Lightning. I represent Lightning Super Watchdog X. This is another reason why we have to be very careful when things are put on consent agenda and then the presenters are not here. Again, they should be here. They don't know if the items are going to be pulled or not. Now, moving on, the situation here where on the IGA, the state and Metro are going to join the IGA on the cost sharing of the levy. Now, when we did Loan 1 and Loan 2, there were certain expenses that would be covered within the Oregon Infrastructure Finance Authority. Now, at this point, there's a lot of additional expenses. They're asking for another one-year time frame extension. There's going to be a lot of more engineering analysis. There's going to be a tremendous amount of cost here. Again, from my position, the levy will not be certified or accredited. And I state my position is that we currently have a breach of the current levy. We currently have 2 travel lanes on top of the levee, which is Marine Drive. That is a breach of the levee. You will not meet New Orleans standards. My position is that we need to focus on the location of the airport. We need to look at getting financing, infrastructure financing to rebuild the levee in that location. And we need to understand, in the past, the river itself on the water side of the levee has reached the crown. That is very dangerous. We've noticed that in the past. That is the history. We cannot take a chance anymore with losing our air travel, losing the whole airport, losing all the businesses surrounding the airport, and yes, loss of life if we do not evacuate in a reasonable time frame. So again, my position is we need to quit looking at this from a nickel and dime type analysis, understand, use the New Orleans levee standards, and rebuild the levee and go for the federal funding to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further public testimony on this item? I will do my level best to explain this in the absence of the staff member who actually administers these contracts. It's my understanding that the city entered into an agreement, a multi-jurisdictional agreement, including that takes place around the Levee Ready Columbia table. The contract is reimbursable. There was an understanding around that table that there would be administrative and other expenses that could not be calculated in advance. They left this opportunity open for us to allocate those additional administrative costs to the various jurisdictions involved in the Levee Ready Columbia. Our share of about an extra $1 million in costs is about $211,000. This authorizes us to be able to spend that $211,000 that will be reimbursable through, I believe it is a federal contract or through a federal program. IFA loans under the intergovernmental agreement. The policy question you raised, I think, is a really good, legitimate question, which is to what standards are we building the levees and whatnot. So, I would be happy to entertain that policy conversation. I think it's a good one, and at this point, I've only had the privilege of attending one of the Levee Ready Columbia board meetings, but I think it's a good and a fair question, and it's one I will continue to take up. And I believe, Commissioner Daly, do you sit on Levee Ready? Okay. I'm making that one up. But at any rate, your presence is with me there, apparently.
Yes.
So it's a good policy question, but as far as this contract, I think it's ready to roll. Please call the roll.
Fish.
Aye.
Udaly.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye, the ordinance is adopted. Please call the roll on the remainder of the consent agenda.
Fish.
Aye.
Udaly.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Here, the consent agenda is adopted. My understanding is the first item on the, never mind, go back to time certain, 9:45. So item 570, please.
Proclaim May 31, 2017 to be a day of celebration for Crow's Shadow Institute of the Arts' 25th anniversary.
Commissioner Fish.
Thank you, Mayor. So we're going to invite two honored guests forward, Carl Davis, the Executive Director of Crow's Shadow Institute of the Arts, and Charles Froelich, Crow's Shadow Board President and a local gallery owner. Today we're celebrating the 25th anniversary of Crow's Shadow Institute of the Arts, an icon in Oregon arts and culture. Crow's Shadow is a center of artistic and educational opportunities for Native Americans, located in the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation. And they have an international reputation for outstanding printmaking. Perhaps most importantly, they host workshops to teach Native arts like weaving and beadwork, sharing this knowledge, culture, and heritage with future generations. We're honored to have Carl and Charles with us, a number of board members and friends of Crow's Shadow who they'll introduce. But we're going to pause for a moment, and the mayor is going to issue a proclamation. Mayor?
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner. Whereas for 25 years, Crow's Shadow Institute of the Arts has provided a creative hub for artistic, educational, social, and economic opportunities for Native American people. Whereas James Lavador, Walla Walla, one of Oregon's most celebrated artists, founded Crow's Shadow on the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation, which has the only master printer in the United States located on a reservation. And whereas the Artist in Residence program at Crow's Shadow is internationally recognized for printmaking and has hosted over 50 artists, including many from Portland. Whereas Crow's Shadow also hosts creative indigenous arts workshops to continue the rich tradition of weaving, basketry, beadwork, and other native arts that reflect the history and culture of our region. And whereas prints by Crow's Shadow's artists have been showcased in museums throughout the Northwest and the nation. Whereas Portland-based artist Marie Watt described her career as being shaped by a web of connections, friendships, and associations in which Crow's Shadow Institute is the epicenter. And whereas Crow's Shadow is an established Oregon cultural organization and serves as a resource for creative people in northeastern Oregon and southeastern Washington. And whereas Crow's Shadow uses the creative arts as a tool for positive transformation by teaching local tribal youth and helping to build and sustain artistic careers. And whereas Oregon is richer for the many creative partnerships that exist between its urban centers and its communities throughout the state. And whereas Portland is proud of its many ties to Crow's Shadow, now therefore I, Ted Wheeler, Mayor of the City of Portland, the City of Roses, do hereby proclaim Wednesday, May 31st, 2017 to be Day of Celebration for Crow's Shadow Institute of the Arts' 25th anniversary in Portland, and encourage all residents to observe this week. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Wheeler. Thank you, Portland City Council, and thank you to the wonderful people of the City of Portland, my hometown. My name is Carl Davis, and I am the Executive Director of Crow's Shadow Institute of the Arts. It is my honor to be here today to represent this amazing independent nonprofit art center. Located on the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation near Pendleton, Oregon, 2017 marks the 25 years of providing a creative conduit to hundreds of local, regional, and national contemporary Native American artists. Although we are located on the other side of the state, Crow's Shadow has worked with many Portland-based artists over the years, including Marie Watt, Pat Boas, Victor Maldonado, Wendy Red Star, Storm Tharp, Sherrod Yonker, and Lillian Pitt. We also have strong relationships with Portland's institutions such as the Pacific Northwest College of Art, the Portland Art Museum, the Oregon College of Art and Craft, the Regional Arts and Cultural Council, and many other local art galleries. And this City Hall, Crow's Shadow prints adorn the walls in the City Hall here, so thank you. Our mission has been made possible by the generous support of numerous Oregon and Portland area foundations, such as the James F. and Marion L. Miller Foundation, the Meyer Memorial Trust, the Ford Family Foundation, the Native Arts and Culture Foundation, and the Oregon Community Foundation, to name just a few. I would like to thank my board of directors, the dedicated staff and volunteers of Crow's Shadow, and all of the unwavering support from individual art collectors and donors over the years. I would also like to personally thank Commissioner Nick Fish for taking the time to visit Crow's Shadow and for his continuing support and advocacy on behalf of Crow's Shadow. It is an honor and pleasure to be here today and to have Crow's Shadow recognized in this illustrious manner. We are humbled by the occasion and look forward to working with the City of Portland for the next 25 years and beyond. Thank you.
Carl, before we hear from our next speaker, I understand we have 4 or 5 board members, and since they're not speaking, but they're here, could we ask them to stand and just be recognized to the board members that are here?
And staff members too, please.
And staff. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you for joining us today. Charles, welcome.
Commissioner Fish, Mayor Wheeler, thank you very much.
Thank you.
My comments are brief. It's an honor to volunteer at Crow's Shadow, and I feel like being a part of Crow Shadow makes me so proud to be an Oregonian. The communication between the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indians and the nation, the region, the nation. We don't live in a vacuum, and Crow Shadow is a magnet for people to come here and a beacon for the artists of the state to be found and seen across the country. So I feel like Crow Shadow has done such a service, not just to the northeast part of the state, but to the whole region. And I'm honored, and I sincerely appreciate your recognition.
If I could, just a couple of questions. Carl, last summer, when my family was in Europe, Al Solheim and I took a road trip to Eastern Oregon, and we spent some time at Crow Shadow, and we had a chance to visit with James Lavador and visit his studio. And so my question is, for people in Portland that want to come out and visit Crow Shadow, what do you recommend?
I recommend coming out to visit. We're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 to the public, and we have a gallery that shows work on a regular basis, and our master printer is usually working in the studio with either an artist or working on prints that he's currently publishing. So,
One of the things that I would suggest is sometimes we have official delegations that go to Pendleton around the Roundup or for other events, and Crow Shadow is actually very close to Pendleton. So you can go to the Roundup and also go see incredible art while you're in that part of the state.
and the Pendleton Woolen Mills too.
A calendar date to note is September 22nd at the Hallie Ford Museum of Art in Salem. They will be presenting our 25th anniversary exhibition and launching the book that presents our history. And throughout the year, there are galleries across the city, PDX Contemporary, Elizabeth Leach, Ogden Gallery, My Gallery, Froelich Gallery, and I believe Up 4 will be presenting artists that have printed at Crow Shadow, among other galleries. And tonight I open a show at My Gallery, but if you go to any of these galleries throughout the year, you'll find this work.
Well, tonight is a big night, and I hope some of us can join you at that event. And Charles, while we have you, the Regional Arts and Culture Council has put together quite a collection of art. And we have some pieces of outstanding Native American art. Who are some of the artists that we celebrate that are in the city's public collection?
Oh, Wendy Red Star, Marie Watt, Jim Lavador, Rick Bartow, Joe Fedderson, Sherrod Yonker. Help.
Susan Shuships,
It's a long list.
Whitney Minthorn, James Luna. So.
That's wonderful. And I think at some point our hope is actually to get all the works by Native American artists and do a special show at City Hall so that the public can take in the art that we've invested in. Mayor, we have a proclamation, and can we get a picture with our honored guest? Sure. So if we can have everyone come forward to the front of the room. You can't have my Joe Fetters. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. It's really good. Yeah, good to see you again. It's a pleasure. Carl, thanks very much. Nice job. Charles, thank you. See you.
Certain times.
And by the way, if our friends from Crow Shadow have other events to go to, we will not be offended if you leave, but thank you for joining us.
So colleagues, we have, our next time certain is not till 10:20, so we cannot start on that. The first regular agenda item, 589, we won't have our individual here to speak on that until 10:30. Question, Commissioner Fish, do you have the people present that you need for 590?
I think so, Mayor. Let me double check. For 590, no.
Let's go to the second readings. Call 591, please.
That's a good idea.
591, amend fee schedules for tree permits.
Please call the roll.
Fish.
Aye.
Udaley.
Aye.
Fritz.
Well, as noted last week, we will be looking at getting full cost recovery on tree permits in the next go-around. Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted. Please call 592.
Authorize contract with Carrillo Engineers, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $291,852 for design and construction support services for the Conduit 2 trestle upgrades project.
Any further conversation? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Fish.
Aye.
Udaley.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted. Please call 593.
Authorize a contract with the lowest responsible bidder for construction of the Council Crest roof replacement project at an estimated cost of $550,000.
Please call the roll.
Fish.
Aye.
Udaley.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. This ordinance is adopted, and just so people, these are second readings, so we've already had the deliberation and testimony on this, in case people are wondering why we're just flying through these. Next item, 594, please.
Authorize an agreement with Clackamas County in the amount of $210,425 to acquire a 30-acre conservation and access easement.
Please call the roll.
Fish.
Aye.
Udaley.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted. Let's see, we don't have,
598.
yes, call 598, please.
Authorize $100,000 for the establishment of the Portland in the Streets Community Grant Program to award grants through a competitive process for the period of July 1, 2017 through June 30, 2019.
Please call the roll.
Fish.
Aye.
Udaley.
Aye.
Fritz.
The money for this is coming from the gas tax, and it's really a wonderful innovation that the Bureau of Transportation is trying to get more of it out into the community. Aye.
Wheeler.
Say aye.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted.
So we've got 607 and 608.
607 and 608.
Would you take 607 back for 1 week?
And what do you want?
605 is the second reading.
Yeah, I think we can vote on 608. I'd just like to have 607 go back to your office.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Let me, yeah, and that's already going to be held over. So just to clarify, item 607, I'm just getting a little bit ahead of myself for a moment, and 608 are both going to be held over for 1 week.
So then we have 605.
All right, 605, call the roll. Or read the item and call the roll, sorry.
605, approve fiscal year 2017-18 cost of living adjustments to pay rates for non-represented classifications and elected officials, specify the effect upon employees in the classifications involved, and provide for payment.
Call the roll, please.
Fish.
Aye.
Udaley.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye, the ordinance is adopted.
Mayor, can I make a proposal?
Commissioner Fish?
571 has a 10:20 time, but it's not, there's no testimony to be taken. It is simply to adopt findings, and I move to suspend the rules and take it up now. That there is no testimony and nothing for the public to add. It is simply a ministerial action of having the court, the lawyers present the...
I certainly would agree with that unless legal counsel has any problems.
If the council were to take a vote to suspend the rules, the council could proceed with
Is there a second to
Consideration.
Commissioner Fish's motion?
Second.
There's a second. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Fish.
Aye?
Udaley.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye. I mean, no, sorry. Got used to all the ayes, but respectfully, no.
Wheeler.
Aye. The rules are...
I'm sorry, what's on the motion to suspend the rules? Sorry.
Yes.
You're going too fast
You're
for
good.
me.
Oh,
Yes, I'm
sorry.
good with that, sorry.
Yes, she's good with that. Okay, yes, aye. The rules are suspended. Please call item 571.
Do we need a motion?
You have to read the item first.
Oh, sorry. 571, appeal of TMT Development Company against the Portland Design Commission's design review decision of approval with conditions in the West End sub-area of the downtown sub-district of Central City Plan District at 901 to 919 Southwest Taylor Street, LU 16265-5061 DZM.
So we had extensive testimony and presentations on this item previously. So at this point, I move that the council grant the appeal approving the application with conditions and adopt the findings.
Second?
There's a motion, there's a second by Commissioner Fish. Please call the roll.
Fish.
Mayor, we did have an extensive hearing on this, and for me, this was a close call, but I think we got it right, and I appreciated the testimony, and I also appreciated the staff report and the guidance they gave us as we worked through this issue. Aye.
Udaley.
Aye.
Fritz.
I also thought it was a close call, and so I opted to go with the Design Commission. No.
Wheeler.
Aye. The appeal is approved
Mayor,
with stated conditions. Commissioner Fish?
Could we take a 5-minute break?
We're going to have to take a 10-minute break because the next time certain isn't until 10:25. So we are in recess till 10:25. everybody, for your patience. We have Commissioner Fish would like to revisit item number 594. Commissioner Fish?
Mayor, I move to reconsider item 594.
Second.
Carla, we need to,
I'm sorry, could you call the vote on 594, please?
This for reconsideration.
Excuse me. Excuse me. This is a disruption and violation of council rules. This is a violation of council rules. If you continue to disrupt, you'll be asked to leave. And we'd rather not have you leave. We'd rather you stay and have the opportunity to hear.
But you let somebody else have a drink? No, I'm gonna have a drink before you take me in my handcuffs.
Folks, why don't we take another 5-minute recess?
They need to not do it. Why would they sit up there and call the police on me?
I seconded it.
All right, so let me,
Where
so
were we?
that's, so
So
we're voting.
we're out of recess now.
We're voting on the motion to reconsider.
Very good. Call the roll, please.
But we can't vote on the next one until on,
Yeah.
Yeah, until we have Commissioner Daly.
But I'll make the amendment, and then we'll.
So
stop.
speak very slowly until Commissioner Daly gets here. Please call the roll.
Okay. This is a motion to reconsider.
Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
Fish.
Aye.
Fritz.
I mean, aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The motion is reconsidered.
So, Mayor, I make the following motion, that we amend, I'm going to read this as slowly as possible so it's clear. to
Very
everyone here.
good. Thank you.
That we move to amend item 594 to add an emergency clause for the following reason. Quote, "The council declares an emergency exists because the public interest would be harmed by any delay in acquiring the authorized conservation easement. Therefore, this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage by council."
I will second that motion after thinking about it very carefully.
We
And,
have a motion on the table by Commissioner Fish.
Commissioner Fritz, your staff was just wonderful in helping to craft this language and working it through the building. I thank you for your
I
leadership.
expect nothing less, Commissioner.
Very good.
So
So I move the amendment.
Very good. And Commissioner Fish, would you explain for Commissioner Daly what amendment you had just made so that she knows
I've
what
moved
she's
to put
voting
in
on?
an emergency clause on item 594.
Very good. I could not have filled that space any longer. Please call the roll.
Fish.
Aye?
Udaly.
On 594?
Yeah,
I
so
thought we already voted on
we
that.
did, we reconsidered it, and now we're
okay.
putting the emergency on.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted as
No,
amended.
no, it's been amended. Now, Mayor, I move the ordinance. as
Oh,
amended.
thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Fish. You're right. You move the ordinance
As amended.
as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Call the roll.
Fish.
Aye.
Udaly.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted as amended. Thank you, Commissioner.
Mayor, just
Fish.
by way of housekeeping, and it's obviously your decision, we have a time certain at 10:25 with the Mount Hood Regulatory Commission, and we also have our friends from the Portland Timbers that are here. Those are the next two items in whichever sequence you choose.
Let's take them in order. 571, please.
2.
And Carla, while we're at it,
572.
You want to start with 572?
That's the one you meant.
We already did some-
You want the cable one first? I don't care, so either one.
Well, Mayor, the proclamation with the Timbers is 589, so it's your call whether we do the Timbers first.
Oh,
or
you're
Mount
right.
Hood
I'm
Regulatory.
sorry. I'm sorry. Let's do the Timbers first. Since there are many of them here, let's help them get back to their day.
589.
589.
Proclaim June 4 through 10, 2017 to be Portland Timbers, Thorns FC, and T2 Stand Together Week.
Thank you,
Commissioner
Mayor.
Fish.
I'd like to invite up our honored guests, Captain Jack Jewsbury, Stand Together Ambassador, Jordan Farwell, Community Relations Manager, and Timber Joey, America's most famous team mascot. Would the three of you please come forward? The mayor is about to read a proclamation, but if I could just say as an introduction, we are honored to have you here, all of you, especially Captain Jack Jewsbury, who had such a wonderful career until he retired in 2016 and now serves as such a great ambassador for the team. Colleagues, this is the 6th annual Timbers Stand Together Week, a week of service in our community. This year, the Timbers, the Thorns, and T2 will support local mission-driven nonprofits like ERCO, the Oregon Food Bank, Solve, Zanger Farm, and many others. We're proud of all the Timbers, of what the Timbers and Thorns do in our community, and today the mayor is going to issue a proclamation. Mayor Wheeler.
Yes, thank you for being here. Whereas the city of Portland is proud to be home to the professional soccer teams, the Portland Timbers, the Portland Thorns FC, and Timbers 2. And whereas the Timbers, Thorns, and T2 are committed to giving back to our community and promoting civic engagement through their community platform, Stand Together. And whereas the city of Portland is proud to partner with the Timbers, Thorns, and T2 in organizing the 6th anniversary of Stand Together Week, a week of community service from June 4th through June 10th, 2017. And whereas approximately 1,000 Stand Together volunteers, including Timbers, Thorns, and T2 players, the Timbers Army, the Rose City Riveters, coaches, staff, sponsors, and community members will come together for a week of service. And whereas volunteers will participate in 30 community events and projects throughout Portland, including building homes, removing ivy and other invasive species from local parks, restoring children's books, creating healing gardens, and leading soccer clinics. And whereas Stand Together will support local, mission-driven nonprofits, including Active Children Portland, Children's Book Bank, Immigrant and Refugee Community Organization, the Oregon Food Bank, Playworks, Solve, Virginia Garcia Memorial Health Center, and Zanger Farm. And whereas Stand Together Week is a call to action by the city, the Portland Timbers, Portland Thorns FC, and Timbers 2, and our community partners to inspire people to give back through community service. Now, therefore, I, Ted Wheeler, Mayor of the City of Portland, Oregon, the City of Roses, do hereby proclaim June 4th through 10th, 2017 to be Portland Timbers, Thorns FC, and T2 Stand Together Week in Portland, and encourage all residents to observe this week. Thank you.
So, welcome. So, Mayor, we're gonna turn first to Jack Jewsbury, who had a distinguished career with the Timbers, and as we know, in 2011 was named to the MLS All-Star team. It's an honor to have you, Captain Jack, if you could take it away.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate you guys having us. As a player, this was a huge week for us to get out in the community and thank a community that gives so much to us week in, week out in the stadium. So now to be on the other side of it, on the front office, it's a big, important week for us as well, where everybody gets out, contributes in different ways, and to get out into Portland with the players, with the front office, and with our fans. Timbers Army comes out in droves and really supports this. And so for you guys to recognize that, we appreciate it. We're excited about it, and there are a lot of opportunities. I think timbers.com/stand together, there's opportunities for people to sign up and volunteer to be a part of these different projects throughout the city.
Thank you very much. We go to Timber Joey.
Well, thank you again for having us again.
Get near the mic if you could.
Thank you again for having us. It's good to see you again, Mayor Wheeler. It's
Good to see you too.
Been about 80 miles since the last time I saw you, I think. And it's good to be in here in front of you guys again today. And we really appreciate the proclamation, and we really encourage everybody in the city of Portland to not only get out for this Stand Together Week, but get out and volunteer in the community and make our community a better place, as we're trying to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jordan, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, just to reiterate, thank you guys so much for having us today. It's really exciting to have it officially proclaimed. We're all really excited to get started next week. We're going to have all of our athletes on all three teams at 30 projects throughout the 7 days. So we invite anybody that would like to join. As Jack said, there's still a lot of volunteer opportunities available at timbers.com/standtogether.
Thank you. Very good. Would you like to say a few words?
I think just echo what everybody else said. We're so grateful to be here and to have you guys acknowledge the work that we're doing and getting everybody involved in the community. We hope everyone can join us.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Timber Joey, let me give you this proclamation the mayor has signed. And could you again tell us where we can find information on the website about all the events?
Yeah, so if you go to timbers.com/standtogether, I believe there's a dash between the stand and together. There's a list of all of the available projects, and it'll take you to Hands On Portland so for you to kind of peruse what projects are available, the whole calendar, and see what's open and sign up.
Terrific.
So it's all right there.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you all for being here.
Is there a chance we could get a picture?
Sure.
Yeah, love to.
Please. Big soccer fan contingent here.
Ready? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thanks for good seeing you again. Thank you.
Thank you. Kimber, thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it. Thank you. While we are teeing up item 572, Carla, I overlooked one item. Since we are holding over items 607 and 608, those still need to be read into the record, and I neglected that. Could you read those two items, please?
607, approve rental rehabilitation conditional grant product guidelines.
And without objection, that's been held over till next week.
And 608, amend relocation assistance regulations in affordable housing preservation and Portland renter protections.
And without objection, that's also been rolled over to next week. And so the next item will be 572.
Approve the Mount Hood Cable Regulatory Commission's fiscal year 2017-18 budget.
Very good. I will turn this over to the Office of Community Technology and the wizards therein.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. My name's Leif Hansen. I'm a citizen appointee by you to the Mount Hood Cable Regulatory Commission. I'm joined by Joy Amelchek. She's our program manager, here to help answer questions. I'm here to highlight a couple of the many MHCRC activities over the past year and to seek your approval of the fiscal year 2017-18 fund budget, the MHCRC budget. I believe you have both the budget or the MHCRC's activity report, the annual report, and the proposed budget in front of you. As a reminder, the Mount Hood Cable Regulatory Commission is an intergovernmental partnership among Gresham, Fairview, Portland, Troutdale, Wood Village, and Multnomah County. Each of these jurisdictions appoints citizen representatives to the commission. The MHCRC has oversight, enforcement, and public benefit responsibilities for the cable services franchises with the cities and the county. Portland has 2 cable service franchises with Comcast and CenturyLink. As it points out in the annual report, the MHCRC deals with ever-changing technology to support community needs. For local authority over public rights of way and compensation, a consumer watchdog platform for community voices, affordable broadband networks for schools, libraries, and local governments, and local solutions for addressing digital equity issues. Over this past year, the MHCRC has provided many services to our communities and residents. The MHCRC continued its work with public school districts under the TechSmart initiative for student success. Reynolds, David Douglas, Portland Public, Park Rose, and Gresham Barlow have active grants. We are in the process with Centennial School District for its first TechSmart grant. Thus far, the MHCRC is over $9 million into the longer-term investment goal of $19 million. About 185 classroom teachers are now supported by resources provided under the TechSmart initiative. The Community Technology Competitive Grant Round funded 7 new grants with community organizations. These grants leveraged over $1.6 million in matching resources. Many grants are focused on assisting residents and youth in acquiring technology skills important for employment in today's economy. For example, the MHCRC Community Grants is supporting access to opportunity at the Rockwood Library, Friends of the Children East County, Wisdom of the Elders, the Northeast Business Association, and Open School East. Affordable broadband has become more and more critical to our local public institutions. The MHCRC is leading a long-term network planning effort in partnership with 18 public agencies within Multnomah County. This partnership for the current institutional network provides high-speed, affordable broadband connectivity to 321 schools, libraries, and public agencies throughout the county. The MHCRC provided funding and franchise enforcement support to OpenSignal. This past year, OpenSignal produced over 7,000 hours of original local programming. They also trained nearly 800 residents in digital media and literacy skills. The MHCRC addressed consumer protection issues both broadly and with individual subscribers. For example, the MHCRC worked with the cable companies on issues related to clear information on subscribers' bills, service line extensions, phone answering standards, and service fees. We assisted in the resolution of 357 complaints from local cable TV subscribers. Now to move on to the money, I'm happy to report that once again the MHCRC received a clean audit for fiscal year 2015-16. The full audit document is available on the MHCRC's website. Also wanted to note a couple of trends we're seeing in cable revenues. On page 9 of the annual report, you'll see two graphs that show these trends. The number of cable subscribers grew consistently between the years of 2006 to 2012. However, since then, subscriber numbers have been declining. Despite this decline in subscribers, cable companies' revenues from cable services have steadily increased, showing a flattening only in the past 2 years in the East Multnomah County areas. This is primarily due to cable companies raising rates and offering more services and program packages. The MHCRC is closely watching these trends as they have possible future implications for franchise fee revenues for local governments and for revenues that support MHCRC community grants and other programs. Coming up in fiscal year 17-18, the MHCRC is engaged in a future focus planning. Considering rapidly evolving technology and public policy and our community's increasing reliance on availability of broadband, the MHCRC is turning its sights onto the future. We intend to work with you and your city staff and our communities to identify needs and opportunities for our broadband future. The budget includes funds to assist the MHCRC in this endeavor. The MHCRC proposed 17-18 fund budget is included in your meeting packet. Annual allocations from each member jurisdiction collectively funds about half the MHCRC's total operating budget. Another way to view it is the MHCRC member jurisdictions spend about 5% of the collected cable franchise fees on regulation and program-related administration. Portland's annual allocation for fiscal year 17-18 is $295,827. The East County cities and Multnomah County's allocation is $151,327. The remaining portion of the MHCRC budget is funded by other resources, mostly to administer the dedicated capital fee revenues and related programs, such as the MHCRC community grants, the INET, and OpenSignal. Before closing, I want to thank the mayor and council for supporting this county-wide partnership among the jurisdictions since 1993. With this support, the MHCRC has been very successful at convening community members and public agencies to steward and creatively leverage resources and regulatory authority to amplify the benefit for all. Over the coming year, we are excited to work with you to explore and discover how to leverage our success as we adapt to the evolving needs of our city and communities. In addition, I wanted to thank the council for its unanimous support of the Office for Community Technology budget note requesting a review for a better fit within the city's bureau systems. And to conclude, I respectfully request that the Portland Council approve the fiscal year 2017-18 proposed MHCRC fund budget.
Thank you. We appreciate the presentation. Commissioners, Commissioner Fish?
Mayor, I have a question. In addition to the budget note that talks about where this fits within our form of government, there's, I think, at least one or two other questions that came up through our budget process that I'd like to solicit your thoughts about. And one was, what's the future of OpenSignal, and what in the future is the appropriate relationship between the commission and OpenSignal? And I I make that question as open-ended as possible because I'd like to begin a conversation and get your thoughts on that.
So we have an agreement, of course, with OpenSignal, and really it is to provide grant funds to them. But the operation funds come directly from the city. And so it's clearly important. There's a strong relationship between the technology that the cable companies provide and the open access to their infrastructure that the OpenSignal also requires. Perhaps Julie, you want to comment on this, or we also have an OpenSignal representative here.
So so according at page 8 of your annual report, and by the way, it's an excellent document. Thank you. Very clear.
Thank you.
It lists the cable franchise fee disbursements. So it says about 865,000 flows through you to OpenSignal. Is that correct?
It is correct.
Now, OpenSignal operates as a freestanding 501c3 nonprofit, correct?
That's correct.
So what other than providing the operating support from franchise fees, what is, beyond that, what is the role that you play overseeing OpenSignal?
I would have to, I think, defer that question and to the IGA that we have between us and the city, and the contract between us and OpenSignal. I'm not as familiar with the details of that to probably comment.
So this may not be, I'm not suggesting this is the time and the place to negotiate any terms of the IGA, but a question that the council is going to be taking up is, what is the future of OpenSignal? And, where are they going to be in 5 or 10 years? And obviously our interests, based on what we've heard from the community, is we want them to be a strong and thriving organization. But the question is, to what extent, how much independence do they have? And what is their current status, and what might be their future status? I don't actually have an answer to the question, but because this is our chance annually to hear from you,
right,
I want to put the marker on the table, Mayor. In the mayor's budget, he restored the 5% cut that was otherwise OpenSignal was going to take, and I think that was in part in response to strong community support for their work.
Yep.
And so as we support them with the franchise fees and with our dollars and with the community, what does that look like in the next 5 to 10 years? And I would invite us to open that conversation up as part of sort of what's your core mission, what should we be doing, and how can both of us help OpenSignal continue to grow and prosper?
Yeah, we would encourage the conversation. We've had a lot of it at the commission as well, and we know that technology plays a big part. There's a lot of changing patterns in the use of video that I think has a relationship with as part of the future of OpenSignal. And we also know that OpenSignal's current budget is highly dependent on the city and the commission for its sustainability. And I know they've made strides to become more independent. And so I think that we encourage that, and I think that's an important conversation to have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Very good. Please call the roll.
We have public
I'm
testimony.
sorry, public testimony. Is there public testimony on this item?
Charles Bridgetrain Johnson signed
All
up.
right, thank you. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for a great presentation. It's very thorough. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, my green light is on. There we go. Charles Bridgetrain Johnson. So it's interesting that Commissioner Fish raised the question he did. And of course, this being Asian American Month, we get to talk about two awesome women. Evelyn Liu, I'm assuming that I got the pronunciation correct. She's with the Asian Pacific America Chamber of Commerce. It's been 1 or 2 weeks since we had Apano here for Asian American Pacific Islander Month. And Carol Studenmund. Why would we say Carol Studenmund here? Well, she's only the chair of the Mount Hood Cable Regulatory Commission. How do we know this? Because when we go to opensignalpdx.org, whoop, there it is. So there is, obviously some cross-pollination here between MHCRC and the Open Signal. And I just think it's odd that in a presentation where we have that much overlapping of the board, that isn't right there on the table for people who are watching in public access. I'm not saying it's good or bad, either way. It makes sense that with we didn't hear a particular number, the percentage of the Open Signal financing that comes out of the cable regulatory fees, and then anything that comes through either general revenue or other special programs out of the city's budget. So I have full confidence in all the commissioners and their staff, especially Commissioner Udalys. And I'm sure those issues are being dealt with, but I just think that the way for these places to thrive and what they say their mission is for community involvement. And the more you know, the more you can do. And that would include going over to MLK and walking right into Portland, what used to be Portland Community Media and is now Open Signal, and see how, when you say, why has Comcast actually got more money with less subscribers? A tiny, tiny, tiny part of that is that there's some awesome equipment to make awesome community videos on MLK, just north of the Nike store, and it's totally open. I think we've got Open Signal on the agenda, actually, coming up also as an agenda item. So the one thing that we maybe do need to have some more concern about is, as was covered on page 9 of their report and in their oral presentation, we don't know consumer sentiment about cable bills. We know consumer sentiment about subscribership because it's going down, but the people who do like it are willing to pay more. So hopefully, and since this is for the Cable Regulatory Commission, there should be some outside study, but maybe also national media groups are presenting that information, so we don't need to spend any money to get better answers on what to expect revenue-wise. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner, any further comments, questions? Please call the roll.
Fish?
Well, I want to thank Commissioner Hansen for joining us today and for an outstanding presentation. The written report lists all the grant making, and it's very impressive. And we ask a lot of these citizen volunteers, and that includes administering a grant program and making sure the money gets to people who need it. And we appreciate this report. And I know that in prior years, the council asked for more information about your financial stewardship, and that's reflected in pages 8 and 9 of the report. And so I really appreciate the transparency, and I'm honored to vote aye and accept this report.
Udalys?
Aye.
Fritz?
Very much appreciate all the work of the people on the Mount Hood Cable Regulatory Commission. Thank you, Commissioner Leif Hansen, for being here today. That presentation was had obviously had a lot of time gone into it. In fact, we're so grateful we approved your reappointment in the consent agenda. So thank you for all the time that you and other volunteers put into this. Aye.
Wheeler?
Yeah, thank you, Leif and Julian. Again, I always appreciate it when we have folks who are willing to step up and serve long hours on these commissions, and often it can be very technical. I'm particularly appreciative of the intentional efforts that you've made around broadband access and digital equity. And I think those are areas where we need to continue to push hard in the future. And you're in the right place on the right commission to be able to help us accomplish that important goal. So thank you for that. Aye, the ordinance is adopted. Next item, please.
Item 590, require short-term rental platforms to collect an additional $2 per room night for housing and homelessness initiatives and expand the Tourism Improvement District to include short-term rental platforms.
Commissioner Daly? I think, am I turning this one over to you?
I think Commissioner Fish.
Commissioner Fish?
Yeah.
My staff told me to turn it over to you, but maybe what we should do is just say that we're
Let's hear the presentation.
delighted to bring this forward and ask Thomas Lanham to walk us through the resolution.
Very good. Thanks, Commissioners.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. I'm Thomas Lanham. I'm the Director of the City's Revenue Division. The short-term rental platforms have been having an impact on housing availability in Portland. The Portland Housing Bureau has estimated that up to 1,000 housing units that would otherwise be available for long-term lease or purchase are effectively removed from the market by the short-term rental platforms. In 2016, Airbnb published a report stating that the impact was much less than that. And while opinions vary as to the magnitude, clearly there is some impact. In recognition of that impact, the resolution before you today directs the Revenue Division of the City Attorney's Office to draft an ordinance requiring short-term rental platforms to collect an additional $2 per booking night to be dedicated to housing and homeless initiatives, and to help mitigate the impact that short-term rentals have on the housing market generally. There are at least 2 other cities in the U.S. that have implemented similar per-night type fees. The resolution also directs the drafting of an ordinance to expand the Portland Tourism Improvement District to include the short-term rental platforms. When the district was created by the City Council in 2012, the intent was that all large transient lodging establishments, defined as hotels with 50 or more rooms, should remit an additional license fee calculated at 2% of taxable rents. The short-term rental platforms were in their infancy in 2012, but have grown to the point where they rival and in most cases overshadow the very largest traditional hotels, and as a matter of fairness, should also contribute to the district. District revenues are remitted to Travel Portland to promote the city of Portland as a tourism destination, and therefore should provide a multiplying effect on the local economy and lodging demand generally. It is noteworthy that the Tourism Improvement District license fee is typically passed on to the guest, and we anticipate short-term rental platforms may elect to do the same. These code changes are not expected to have a material impact on tourism demand in Portland. It's been 5 years since the Tourism Improvement District was implemented, and in those 5 years, Portland's hotel-motel tax receipts have continued to break year-over-year records. Compared to similar cities, the overall hotel tax and fee environment remains very reasonable in Portland. If the council passes the resolution today, the Revenue Division will provide a draft of the implementing ordinance to interested short-term rental platforms to provide for feedback and ensure that the timing and the framework is workable for them. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Mayor, can I put this into context? First, I want to thank Thomas Lanham for bringing this forward, and a number of these components are ideas that came out of the Revenue Division. Second, one of the things we sometimes hear from our critics is that the actions we're taking around the so-called sharing economy somehow express our antipathy towards some of these emerging technologies. And I want to be very clear what the guiding principles have been in a number of actions the council has taken. And they are tax fairness and public safety. Those are 2 cornerstone values that the city needs to stand behind. And to put this resolution in the context of other council actions, council authorized 26-194 to be placed on the ballot. The voters overwhelmingly adopted 26-194, and that gives us a new tool in defining, quote, operator of these establishments broadly enough to cover the internet operators. Second, this council has adopted by resolution has adopted a resolution and directed that an ordinance be brought forward giving the Revenue Bureau subpoena power to obtain the names and addresses of hosts from a number of these internet companies. With that information, it is our intent to make sure they're paying their fair share of taxes and that the units are safe for the people that actually occupy them. Third, the city is about to sit down and undertake negotiations with HomeAway for the purposes of attempting to bring them into full compliance with our laws, including to collect arrears from taxes that they have not paid in the past. And finally, today, this measure, recognizing that there is an adverse impact on the housing crisis by taking these units offline, proposes that we add a $2 per night fee, and that an ordinance come back to us for that purpose. In totality, the actions we've taken recognize that with changes in technology, people are increasingly going to be booking units using using the internet, their computer or their phone, and technology provides convenient ways of doing so. Our interest is making sure that everybody who provides a room for rent in our community plays by the same set of rules, and that no consumer is put in harm's way. And that's what the totality of these measures seek to achieve.
Thanks, Commissioner. Any public testimony on this item?
I did not have a sign-up sheet.
So I'll just say this. First of all, I want to thank, come on up, and while you're coming up, please come on up. I want to thank Commissioner Fish and the rest of the council for focusing on short-term rentals and promoting Portland as a destination. I think this is a solid resolution. I think it'll help from the development of the tourism industry here. Taking a step back, though, I think that we can do much better working with this industry to develop appropriate guidelines and regulations. And like Commissioner Fish, I think we need to get ahead of that rather than react to things that have already happened. I've directed my staff to work with BPS over the next year on the short-term rental code to determine what's working well, what isn't working well, and how we need to resolve these issues. So I want to thank everybody for working on this and supporting it, and I hope resolving some of the conflicts that currently exist around short-term rentals. And Commissioner Fish, I want to thank you in particular for your hard work on this issue. Mary, do you want to start?
Sure.
If that's okay? Great. Thanks.
Hi, Mary Sipe. Nice to see you all again. I'd like to just kind of echo what Mayor Wheeler just said about this, and also kind of bring to light something that's happening that really makes me happy to see this. Just recently I found out, I think most of us think about these rentals as people renting their home or their spare bedroom through Airbnb, and that it's impacting, perhaps private homeowners. The building across the street from where I live, Block 17, which is owned partially by Hoyt Street Properties and Wood Partners, they had a real mass exodus of renters. And they're considered a luxury apartment building as a result of the pile driving at Block 20. And their way to respond to that was they began renting out on Airbnb their units that they couldn't rent, rather than perhaps bringing the rents to a reasonable amount or some other things. And so to me, this is kind of a red flag. If the large apartment buildings are going to start leasing out on Airbnb and other through other vehicles, and removing these units from the housing market, I do think that they need to be contributing their fair share. They're also in direct competition now with the Marriott Residence Inn down the street. And so that's taking some tax dollars away. So I'm really happy to see that you're doing this, and I just want to say keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could just say, my understanding is that it's illegal to rent apartments and condo buildings.
We thought
on
so too.
Airbnb.
So did a lot of the residents of Block 17.
That was among the original rules. I'd have to double check
Yeah.
to see if that's still in place. I believe
Yeah.
it is.
I believe some of the residents, the renters there, are challenging this, and so it'll be interesting to see. But yeah.
Well, if I had ever wanted to get an Airbnb, I would be very angry if I got woken up by pile driving at 6 o'clock in the morning. So hopefully that will get out and I have to think again.
You're next.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Charles Bridge Crane Johnson. And it's unfortunate that given the crisis, the only number we've really heard here is $2. And 1,000 units impact. We haven't talked about, at least it's not in the documents that are easily available on the City Council website, an estimated total revenue for this package and the appropriate expenditures. And also, if this is any type of carrot stick club thing that could motivate Airbnb and similar providers to get involved in offering emergency shelter to all kinds of people, particularly, as we're going to be talking about later, people who are in distress because of domestic violence. So in addition to some revenue here of a as yet unsummarized, unaggregated amount that we don't know exactly what we're going to do with, we also, in the light of the recent tragedy, when we're all trying to think about being the best citizens we can, need to extend that to corporate citizenship, people who might be renting out the White Stag building for their offices instead of as condos, and make sure that they're fully engaged in quality of life improvements here in our city. So, but if, I don't know, perhaps your packages are more comprehensive, if you could speak to an estimated amount. I don't know if we have even good intel about how many units are on the market for those services.
Well, we do know, and it's a great question, Charles, we did get a report, I think during the budget season, of all the revenue that's reported from short-term rentals, because by council ordinance, that revenue goes into the Housing Investment Fund and is used to build and preserve affordable housing. So we did make a conscious decision to take the revenue stream for short-term rentals and use it to mitigate the impact on affordable housing. We have quantified the amount of the existing revenue. The challenge here is that there are so many units that are under the radar because the platforms have failed and refused to give us the names and addresses of their hosts. And we suspect one of the reasons they've done that is many of those hosts would not otherwise qualify, would not be legal under Portland law, meaning they don't have a valid smoke detector alarm, they can't pass a basic fire safety life test, and the owner has not obtained a business license. So it's hard for us to speculate, but we'll be as transparent about this data as we have been with the revenue that goes to the Housing Investment Fund.
Well, just let me.
Yes, please.
This is just the resolution saying bring something back. So when it comes back to council, that's when you'll have the financial impact statement.
And I've dissed the so-called sharing economy here before, and we're currently, as a city, litigating against a sharing economy company, Uber. I would hope you'll be in conversation with the city attorney's office if there's any legal avenues to leverage better disclosure out of if there's any technology shenanigans going on inside the algorithms, so that we don't have to rely on Mary's excellent reports of what's going on.
Great, thank you.
Yes, my name is Lightning. I represent Lightning Super Watchdog X. Again, I think the city is being completely unreasonable. Over-regulation, over-taxing. Again, these Airbnb, HomeAway, is bringing more money into this city, but it's not going into their pockets. It's going into the businesses in the local communities because they're bringing people in who want to spend money throughout the local economy. Now, you want to come back and start squeezing them. They're already paying a lodging tax. They're already putting money into the Housing Investment Fund. You want to hit this $2 per book night. Then you want to come back and do this tourism improvement district, try to hit on top of their gross rental receipts. Again, the city's being the bully, just like the city's being the bully with the Uber. And again, I hope they challenge you in court on this and run you up a couple $2 billion, and I hope you lose it. You're being completely unreasonable to the people, the businesses such as Airbnb, HomeAway, Uber, Lyft have increased the tourism dollar in this city in the last 3 to 5 years more than anyone else has ever done. You ought to be giving them an award, thanking them for coming into this city. Because if you look at the dollars they brought into this city and then you analyze how well these businesses have done, and look at the business tax that has increased at a rapid pace, and you've benefited from that, but you're not giving them any accolades. No, you want to come back as the big, bully regulator. Well, guess what? You're not the big bullies anymore, because you know what? These billion-dollar corporations overshadow you. I hope they come in and buy your transportation infrastructure out from under you. I hope they come in and basically put their money where they want to put their money, and you quit trying to regulate them out of this city. Again, they should be getting accolades. You shouldn't be stopping the true innovators of this city. You're nothing but regulators standing there thinking you can just squeeze every penny out of them. Guess what? The true entrepreneurs are these companies that are making more jobs, creating more opportunity in this city. And guess what? You're going to lose in court. Thank you.
Okay.
I love regulators.
Thank you.
So we'll move the resolution.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you have to pay
Any
it,
further
you'll know.
public testimony on this particular item?
I don't know.
Sorry?
I didn't have a sign-up sheet.
Very good. This is a non-emergency first reading. It moves to second reading.
Resolution.
I'm sorry. It is a resolution. Please call the roll.
Fish.
Well, I want to thank Thomas Lanham for bringing this forward, and I think it's a innovative idea to leverage the benefits of the short-term rental market and to generate some additional monies to deal with the impact on our housing crisis. There was some testimony earlier about to the extent that, to the effect that we're over-regulating. I want to be very clear. What we're talking about here are out-of-state companies, largely based in Silicon Valley, that are among the most well-capitalized companies in the world, that have gone into city after city and bullied regulators and consumers. And I'm agnostic about the sharing economy. I mean, as a matter of principle, I will not get into an Uber car because I don't want to support their corporate culture. But these are out-of-state companies with a business model that says we come in and run over consumers and regulators. And they have been highly effective. And what Portland needs to do is make sure that the public is safe and that everyone plays by the rules. And the reason 26-194 passed overwhelmingly is that Portlanders found it offensive that a mom-and-pop bed and breakfast in St. John's pays the lodging tax and these out-of-state companies don't. That's offensive. That means that our people are put at a competitive disadvantage. So we're leveling the playing field. And the reason that we are seeking to get the names and addresses of the units is because today, if you ask me, where's a Hilton, where's a Motel 6, I can tell you, and we can go look at the units. Why do we want to look at the units? Because we want to make sure there's a working smoke detector, and God forbid there's a fire, there's a way for someone to get out of the room. Currently, companies like HomeAway have refused to even identify their hosts, which means people are coming to this city, and we welcome them. We're grateful they're coming. They're spending money. We're even more grateful they're doing that. But as a city, we can't tell them they're safe in their unit. And it is only through the grace of God that we have not had a fire or some tragedy where someone has come to our city, and because one of these companies has been negligent in ensuring the units are safe, someone has died. So our obligation is to make sure everybody pays the same tax, the out-of-state companies and the mom-and-pop bed and breakfast, and to make sure the units are safe. That's what these resolutions and ordinance are designed to do. We still have a long way to go, but I have to say, under this mayor, I've seen more action to actually address these consumer and safety issues than I have in the last 4 years, and for that, I'm grateful, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I want to thank Commissioner Fish for his passion on this issue and for his commentary. There's no question that short-term rentals are contributing to a global housing crisis, as well as our own local housing crisis. And is serving as an accelerant to growing wealth inequality. Portland was the first city in the U.S. to legalize short-term rentals, which means we were also the first to set rules and regulations. And I'm proud to say that we are not backing off of them so far. We are actually asserting them further. Aye.
Fritz. Aye. Wheeler.
So I'm not going to get sucked into the conversation about the regulation versus the free market, except to say this. I believe in tax fairness and tax equity, and I want to thank Commissioner Fish for his leadership to make sure that we have that in the community. I think it's a basic principle of taxation. And second of all, while I do support private sector innovation, I also support paying for the services that help them to be economically successful in our community. And for those of you who are regulars here who just sat through weeks and weeks of tough budget decisions around basic services and the cost of providing those basic services, whether it's safety, whether it's roads, whether it's fire and safety inspections, whether it's making sure that we have regulations in place that allow people with disabilities and older adults to participate in the sharing economy, there's a balance here. And it's not about government trying to get their piece or their pound of flesh off of the private sector. This is about making sure that we continue to have a viable community. And so I believe there's plenty of room for the sharing economy in this community to be highly successful and economically highly successful and have our basic needs as a community also addressed. So I think it's a balancing act. It's always, and there'll be people who say we went too far. There'll be people who say we didn't go far enough. That's why we have a government and elected officials to help resolve some of those conflicts. So I think this is a pretty good threading of the needle, and it certainly keeps the door open for further discussions and refinements. But I think it's great, frankly. I think it's a really good first step. Thank you. I support it. Aye. Resolution is adopted. Next item, please.
595, amend fee schedules for land use services and code enforcement.
And I don't know who we have.
We have Deborah Seifert Morris.
Oh, here we are. Right here. Thank you.
So we are here.
Come on up. Thanks, Deborah.
So good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Deborah Seifert Morris. I'm the Bureau of Development Services Senior Business Operations Manager, and I'm joined by Elshad Hajiev, who is our Finance Manager. So we are here to talk about this year's fee schedule and some fee schedule changes. As you know, we provide a wide range of services at BDS, including permit issuance, plan and land use reviews, inspection services, customer service, and also outreach. And we have a goal of having most of our programs be self-supporting, and 97% of our Bureau's operating funds actually come from permit and related fees. And we do come to council every year to talk about adjustments to our fee schedule. This year, due to the ongoing strong economy, we are not proposing any fee increases. However, we do want to make some changes, some language clarification changes to our land use services fee schedule and also our code enforcement fee schedule. So related to land use services, we are wanting to be proactive in making a language change and changing what is now referred to as our environmental review fee to environmental and river review fee. And that's in anticipation of changes that will be coming forward related to the Central City 2035 plan. We also want to have our fee schedule reflect the changes that were adopted by council in March relating to zoning code, the recap 8 changes having to do with demolition delay and changing that from demolition delay to actually 120-day delay. The area in code enforcement that we're wanting to change also is language. We want to incorporate the current short-term rental citation fees that exist in administrative rules and actually incorporate those into our actual fee schedule itself. So there's one place for people to go to see that information. We have, as always, any kind of change, whether it's a language change or a fee change, we do do outreach with all of our customers. We know it's very important for our customers to know of any changes that occur in the area of fees. And so we have been working with the Development Review Advisory Committee. We have published this information in our electronic newsletter, The Plans Examiner. We have reached out to members of the community, posted this on our website. And essentially, those are the changes for this coming year. We do have an effective date of July 7th. And we're available to answer any questions that you might have.
Very good, Commissioners. I want to thank you, and again, somewhat germane to the conversation we were having a few minutes ago, thank you for keeping the fees in alignment, and I think these are very reasonable policy changes that you've proposed, and we frequently get asked, you know, where can I actually see the fee information in the fee schedule and where it's all being published, and I just want to reiterate something that you said, that this is already available on the Bureau website, and for those who are super nerds on this issue, the Plans Examiner newsletter also is sort of the centralized and authoritative source on these kinds of fee issues. So thank you for that as well. Commissioner Fritz.
So as one of those nerds, I do actually want to also highlight the fact for the accessory short-term rental, the first offence is a $1,000 fine, second offence $3,000, and third offence $5,000. So this is serious action, and we do expect all of the homes to be permitted before they go into operation. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Is there any public testimony on this issue?
No one signed up.
This time, I'm sure, this is a non-emergency first reading of an ordinance. It moves to second reading. Thank you both for being here. We appreciate it. Next item, please.
596, amend an intergovernmental agreement with Multnomah County to restructure the domestic violence victim advocates for the Domestic Violence Reduction Unit.
Very good. Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Ron Mason. I'm a sergeant with the Portland Police Domestic Violence Reduction Unit and the Domestic Violence Enhanced Response Team. And with me today, I have Rose Bach from the Domestic Violence Sexual Coordination Office from Multnomah County, and Vanessa Palacios, who is a divert advocate, to give you some information as well.
Thank you all for being here. We appreciate it.
This ordinance amendment is to 30004753 for amending the IGA with Multnomah County. We have had domestic violence advocates for more than 25 years with the Police Bureau housed in the same facility. The last few years, we have had a difficulty in maintaining permanent staff with the advocates that work in the office. There's a lot of training that goes into each of these folks. We asked them coming into it that they would be highly proficient in what they do with at least 2 years of experience. They have bachelor's degrees. They are some of the best that are coming to work in these high stress and high volatility situations. What we have learned from talking with advocates that have left and went on to other places is that a significant amount of the reason that they're leaving is because of the pay. They're making between $14 and $16 an hour being highly skilled professionals. And we've tried to address that with the nonprofit agencies that we've worked with. They understandably have a schedule of pay for all of their advocates that work for their agencies and have been unable to raise the level of pay to something that would be significant enough to be able to stop the massive turnover that we receive. Usually about every 10 months, we're experiencing turnover in these advocate positions, which leads to a difficulty in being able to do this work.
Could you clarify the exact role that the advocates play?
Yes, we're talking about two different positions. There's three positions that are in this IGA. Two of the positions are domestic violence response advocates. They work in the afternoon shift to respond to scenes of domestic violence that an officer has requested and the victim wants to have an advocate come out to them. They are able to help the victim negotiate community resources, the law enforcement and criminal justice system navigation, and be able to not make decisions for the victims, but to be able to educate them on their options and their choices. The other position is a domestic violence response unit advocate that works day shift with the DVRU officers and coordinates cases with them, doing a similar work, but it's not in the moment crisis that the afternoon response advocates work.
Thank you. And for that, we're paying $14 to $16 an hour.
Yes.
Okay, just want to underscore that point.
Yes. So we're asking.
Can you also clarify what kind of training is required?
The training period is about 6 months long. People come to us already having experience in domestic violence community, being advocates, and they also have a bachelor's degree in social work. And often we have people with master's degrees in this work that are coming to work with us and, on this. So the training program is about 6 months to be able to get fully up and running to be on their own, and then typically about 4 months later, we're having to hire somebody else after about a 3 to 6 month gap that there isn't anybody in those positions.
Okay. Thank you for those clarifications. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. I brought Vanessa with me she has a personal story that can express the benefit of this.
Thank you for having us here.
Thank you
Good morning.
for being here.
I am here today to talk about my experience as both a survivor and an advocate for domestic violence cases. More importantly, to fully support the amendment to this ordinance in its entirety. About 10 years ago, I had the misfortune to being involved in a domestic violence situation. I found myself and my 3 children on the street with no money, only with a diaper bag. I was told that I needed to of course, find shelter, to file a restraining order, to find an attorney, to apply for services, to call immigration, all of which were really good things that I needed to get done. However, I did not know how to do it, where to go, who to call, and I had no idea what to do. So the advocate's position is so fundamental to assist people in these situations. With my experience as an advocate and looking back, I can tell you that this could be situations of life and death, and an advocate can completely make the difference in those situations. Survivors need an advocate or a person that they can trust and talk to in order to help them identify their needs. Oftentimes, we have to navigate several systems: criminal justice system, immigration system, the welfare system. So that's just the tip of the iceberg. Because oftentimes DV cases are extremely complicated and convoluted, long-term and steady advocacy is fundamental. This is why I support the amendment in its entirety, and I am hoping and praying you will do so. As I said, advocates could be the difference between a life and death situation.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
This amendment does not have any fiscal impact. There's money that has been reallocated within the police bureau's budget, so there's nothing additional we're asking from the city. This will give us approximately 50% more hours of advocacy a year. There's a study was done in the last couple of years of how much the vacancies have impacted us, and we will be able to have more than 5,000 additional advocate hours by having long-term permanent employees in this position. This will also allow us to get out of the routine of being always in a training cycle and have people that have been up to speed, that know the job, that know the resources, the community, the relationships with police officers, and being able to more effectively help the folks that they serve in the community. And then it will also increase our flexibility. We're looking at being able to expand the hours of operation. So being able to, instead of having the advocates go off shift at midnight, being able to expand to 1 or 2 a.m. Plus, when there are other advocates that are either on vacation or sick, we don't have to have no advocates on duty. We'll be able to have additional staffing that provides 7-day-a-week coverage. The last at least 2 years, we have significantly had many times that because somebody is sick or on vacation or at training and there's no advocates available, or because of the vacancies, there are no advocates available to the police officers who have gotten used to being able to work with them, and they turn to that resource and it's just not there. This amendment would fix that.
Thank you. Great. Is there any public testimony on this item?
Yes, we have 10 people signed up.
Very good. Thank you.
The first three, please, coming up are Mimi German, Tiffany Kraft, and Charles Bridgecrane Johnson.
Good morning.
I have a lot to say about, is this a bill, an ordinance?
Mimi, I'm sorry, is the green light on? It doesn't?
No, it's not.
Okay, thank you.
It's an ordinance.
It's an ordinance. I have a lot to say about the ordinance. My name is Mimi German. I have to start off by reading a poem, and this is not in honor of Micah, but because Micah is a poet and we still have his voice. I want to honor poetry to express my heart. This is called Rowing the River. It's about hate. I want to bend the metal rod, but the rod is too thick to bend, to press the rod together, end to end, back and forth, creating a kink in the metal at its weakest point, back, trying to bend this unmalleable rod until it breaks. And the flame so hot made a rod too solid, forth. I try to bend the bars of hate to crack the point of breakage. And shards of metal pierce my skin, bleeding me back to rafting this longest river, a metal rod as oar, the depth and current, the magnitude, no boat launch and no mooring, white waters, impossible to navigate, and so easy to drown. I don't normally shake up here. It's a hard day. So this is about domestic violence. I want you to add or consider adding to this domestic terrorism. That we need people who are a part of somewhere in this city who can go out to the families of Donna and Venus when the police kill their kids and there's no one to talk to them, that they need to find out on Facebook what happened to their kids. I want somebody to go out to the family of Terrell Johnson, who we still know so little about, when our cops feel the need to kill somebody for maybe seeing a box cutter. We need somebody for domestic terrorism to come to us, to the people, to explain to us how a whole community of cops allowed a murderer who just killed 2 people, slashing their necks and Micah's, to drink a beer, go into a bag that was on the sidewalk. None of those cops had their guns pulled out. Micah got away, not Micah, the murderer got away with yelling at these cops, standing there for over 2 minutes, and he gets arrested. No bullets fired, no guns drawn.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor Wheeler, Commissioners. My name is Tiffany Kraft, and I'm a former adjunct professor and currently work as a faculty organizer with Faculty Forward Network. And I'm also a domestic violence survivor. Very briefly, December 19th, 2013, my almost ex-husband, high on drug and drink, entered our home and tried to snatch our joint 5-month-old child out of his crib. My daughter, who was an adult, 18 at that time, blocked him. He beat her up, threw her against the wall. grabbed my car keys, went out, started my car, backed up, hit a utility truck parked behind us, and then I was on the phone with his father at that time, who was on his way to the scene, but he pulled the car and nearly hit me. I then called 911. Police came. Long story short, there was probable cause. He fled the scene. The police said they were going to collect him, get him, even with 3 adult witnesses. My mother was there as well. They never picked him up. I don't have a lot of faith in the police. Even with a restraining order, he would still do things like come in my backyard, call the cops, nothing. I was the nuisance in this case. And the things that now frighten me, and one of the things that actually helped me with the subsequent PTSD was not just psychotherapy, it was community activism. In particular now when I'm on the streets, if one of those big trucks swerves and revs, and it particularly usually does that around people of color, PTSD is triggered, right? These angry white males are in our city, and I know you know that. And so I was a bit upset with the meeting with Joey Gibson, Patriot Prayer. He is one of those angry, bigoted males that scare me, and that empowered him. You took that power you had that was protecting your citizens in the front line, which are single mothers like me that will be there Sunday, and gave it to him. And I can't tell you how much that hurts. I've been in the faces of these guys. They are oppressors. They are using misappropriated Christian ethics that purposely, intentionally hurt women and minorities. That's what they are designing to do. And that's going to happen on Sunday. I'll be there. I hope you don't show up and shake anyone's hands. I appreciate you, Mayor. I want to see you do what's right for the city. And these guys aren't neutral, and nor are the cops. And I know a lot about cops too, because my father's a retired officer. So I will be there, and I want to be safe. And my children won't be there, of course, but they're going to be worried about me. And I would just really like to say that there's a power over that they're exerting, and I don't appreciate it.
Thank you. And if I could just take one moment to comment, and I appreciate your statement, but I do feel like I need to comment because I've been getting lots of questions about why did I meet with the organizer of the protest that's planned. We have actually reached out to the organizers of that protest and the organizers of the counter-protest. And the conversation was basically, I had 2 purposes. Number one, to ask them if they would voluntarily withdraw.
Right.
And number 2, if they would not do that, we wanted to make sure that we established some parameters for public safety and ask, it's, as you can imagine, it's a very volatile situation. Absolutely. So I didn't just meet with one side. I've met with, and there's not just 2 sides, there's actually multiple sides in this issue that's coming up on Saturday. And the point wasn't to empower them or help them or anything else. It was to appeal for calm and for common sense. And you can disagree with whether it was the right strategy or not. I'm not claiming any monopoly on the truth. But as you know, my first request was to pull the permit.
Right.
And I stood alone in that request, except for Commissioner Udele. I believe she was the only other elected official in the state of Oregon.
I was with you on that. I was happy.
Thank you, and I appreciate it, but we lost that one. So now the question is, how do we de-escalate the conversation?
Don't negotiate with terrorists like Joey Gibson.
I'm not negotiating. I'm not negotiating. What I'm doing is I'm trying to get everybody just.
Okay.
This is we're still mourning here as a community, and the anger is rising.
Okay.
And now my objective as mayor is to do everything I can to maintain the peace. And if that means I have to talk to people, to appeal to them to help me do it, that was a decision I made. And you can say it was the right decision or the wrong decision, but I want you to know why I made that decision.
Can I please say 2 more things?
Please, you may.
I would beg you not to cower to his demand to offer a statement that Jeremy Christian is not part of his gang.
I have offered no such statement,
okay, thank you.
nor will
Well, that's what he's saying on his little videos that he posts.
As you know, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, You
Yes.
can say anything. It doesn't make it true.
Okay,
Thank you for your
One
statement.
last thing, Mayor, can I
Yes.
please offer you this book, Following in Dr. Kendall's Footsteps? It's called White Rage by Professor Carol Anderson. She's a professor at Emory University.
Yeah, sure, as long as, when I'm done, I can return it, because I'm not allowed to accept gifts.
We could have a
but-
library exchange going every
Perfect.
Wednesday, as far as
Sounds
I'm
good.
concerned. Then I get it back,
Yeah,
yeah.
I would, maybe if you could just give it to Carla on your
Oh,
way out,
absolutely.
I'd be delighted, and I'm very appreciative. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Charles Bridge Crane Johnson. And although our community has suffered 2 tragic high-profile deaths right now, I think that should influence our conversation, that even though you sometimes can get caught up in nuts and bolts of municipal legislation, not just Amanda and Chloe, but everybody up there, when a domestic violence item is on the agenda, your briefing should tell us how many dead people we're talking about, how many permanently injured, because that is really, that's happening. You know, at the end of this year, there'll be crime statistics, and it will tell us that Ricky and Taliesin are dead from a crime of violence. But they're sure as heck not going to be alone. I highly doubt the statistics are going to say that nobody died from domestic violence. And of course, overwhelmingly, those victims are women, victims of violent men, violent white men. And so when we have even a nuts and boltsy thing like this about domestic violence, it's important for us to remember not just to do the work to prevent future victims, but to have an informed conversation about how badly did we fail during the previous fiscal year or the previous calendar year, what women lost their lives, and any other victims of domestic violence lost their lives because we have imperfect structures, restraining orders, domestic violence protection orders. We need to constantly be thinking about tweaking those. You know, Vision Zero is a buzz phrase that got attached to traffic deaths, but it applies to all deaths by violence. You know, I haven't heard of a woman who's died from abuse this year. The way men are, I suspect there's already been one. But we really need to look to having a Vision Zero year as soon as possible for that. Thank you all.
Thank you.
The next 3 are Cameron Stark, Chris Ramsey, and Jesse Sponberg.
Good morning.
Carla, could you call the next one on the list?
How about Michelle Dar, I believe his last name?
My name is Cameron Stark. I believe that Black Lives Matter. I kind of want to mirror what Mimi said when she said that we need to put something in this ordinance to expand probably the definition of domestic violence, because there are a lot of instances of police violence. I mean, domestic means here at home. And we are facing a whole lot of violence from the police. I'm sure that Quanice Hayes and Terrell Johnson are not considered under the current scope of domestic violence, but if you look at it in a broader spectrum, yes, they are. They were hurt by those who were scheduled to protect them. And you just also, you can't look at domestic violence without looking at what's going on with the Portland police. I mean, Chief Mike Marshman is, you know, your police chief, and we all know what happened with his stepson. I'm not trying to get too off topic about that, but when you have a police force that's ran by, you know, domestic violence perpetrators, then it's really hard to trust the police when it comes to that. And I know you understand that. I've also known many women who are victims of domestic violence here in Portland, and when they call the police, they in sometimes turn get arrested themselves when they didn't start the altercation, and they definitely weren't the ones that were most left damaged. I've seen that as a pattern and an issue. I think that needs to be addressed. I mean, there's a brand-new women's prison being built, and it's just going to fill more bodies in there. It's a system that's broken. I don't have a whole lot more to say on it, but you need to expand the scope of what you look at as domestic violence, I think.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Chris Ramsey. I just want to acknowledge that $14 to $16 an hour for a domestic violence advocate shows how little we care about violence, even inside of the police budget. If you require a bachelor's degree, any simple math would say you would never be able to fulfill your loans. So just showing that that's actually important. When I think of domestic violence, it makes me think of a situation between two people, traditionally, as people in a relationship. But individual people in a community can be victims of domestic violence at the hands of the community that they live in. And marginalizing people through ignorant policy or outright neglect puts them at an increased risk for domestic violence in their community and in their home. Community violence is domestic violence. Police violence is domestic violence. TriMet violence, domestic violence. ICE violence is domestic violence. I have been the victim of domestic violence and have utilized the police, the judiciary, and community resources to escape. When you come up with a plan on how to try to escape your violator, if you can't trust the police, there is no one to call. If you can't trust that the police would come and help your friend if you were on their couch and he chased you, there is no one to call. And I don't know. On a side note, when I left the courthouse yesterday, I was followed in a huge truck and yelled at. Those types of incidences in our community where we're attacking people who are standing up to white nationalism in our community makes those people that facilitate that type of mentality fired up at home, and everyone around is at an increased risk for direct violence. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to mirror what these citizens both said, and that is we can't look at domestic violence without looking at the institutionalized nature of it and how it runs rife through all of our institutions.
And I'm
This one in
sorry, could you
particular.
state your name for the record? I
Oh,
apologize.
my name is Michelle Dar.
Thank you, Michelle.
So I want to address the institutionalized nature of domestic violence and bring attention to the fact that it runs so rife through all of our public institutions that it shows up everywhere, of course, in our families. And our institutions are responsible. We need to hold our institutions responsible. We need to hold you responsible for the unreal violence that has been unleashed by the Portland police upon communities of color in particular, and how that violence has spread to more violence. And so this makes you responsible. That blood is on your hands, because this system that's been perpetrated here and all over makes everybody accountable, makes everybody responsible for what happened. Without addressing that, there's nothing to address.
Thank you.
I've said enough.
The next three are Margaret Zabrowski, Mary Spagnola, and Allison Sosa.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you. Would you?
Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you.
Wheeler. Mayor Wheeler. I'm Peggy Zabrowski, Margaret Zabrowski legally. In my career in public health with Multnomah County, I saw many victims of domestic abuse and am very supportive of efforts to increase their services. But I'm going to unabashedly admit that I'm using this because it's the most closely related to police issues, because and we're experiencing an emergency in our state. Thank you for acknowledging that and standing up to the police union in your call for a police chief. The danger to people standing up for racial justice right now is increasing exponentially. Oh, I think I messed it up. No.
There you go, thank
Okay.
you.
So we have a problem with the Portland police. They shoot people running away from them in the back. You've experienced 2 deaths in the short time that you've been in your role as mayor. 2 deaths of young black males. And the police themselves have been linked to white supremacist causes. The white supremacists have a long history in Oregon, as we all know. It's on you folks, please, to do what you can against this very powerful union, to initiate an investigation into what's going on inside the Portland police and root it out. You also need to throw your weight in, if you have it, with the FBI, telling them they must investigate the white supremacist networks in our city, in our state and city. We are calling, as of today, we will be calling on the wonderful investigative news sources in our country, some of which live here in Portland. The Observer's work has been sterling. We've all learned a lot from that. I'm right, it's right, it's Portland Observer with the Justice Series. Do I have it right? Yeah, okay, that's right. But we'll be calling on Criminal and Slate and Atlantic and people who've done the work to do that research themselves so we can hold the feet of the people of Oregon to the fire, okay? And I'm looking to you guys to take responsibility. Things are going to get worse. People are in pain. You got yelled at today for a reason. People are at risk.
Thank you.
There are a lot of threats, and there's a lot of people feeling permitted to do open violence. We know how the right works. It's always the lone crazy who does the crime. They intentionally make that happen. That is a psychological thing, trick, manipulation, that they're very good at. And can't let it happen anymore.
I agree. I think about it all the time. Good morning.
Thank you. Mary Spagnola. I'm pretty nervous. I've never addressed City Council before. Okay. I'm just going to read. I'm afraid of the police. I'm afraid because they have all the weapons and gear and protection. And I'm afraid because when someone is killed by a police officer in this city, the city basically says, good job. If the police are supposed to protect us and they see us as enemies, who protects us from the police? If an officer just doing his job means someone has to die, we have big problems. If an officer is so afraid for their own life, even with all their protection, they feel they must kill someone, maybe they aren't doing a good job. The narrative needs to change. I expect more from the city of Portland, from the mayor, and from the PD. Why is our response not, how could this have been avoided? All the investigations and reviews that result in he was just doing his job response are heartless and disgusting. It's clearly about you all covering your butts instead of honoring a life lost, instead of accountability for causing pain. My concerns are now acutely focused on the racist violence in our community. The recent loss of lives should serve as clear evidence that this is an urgent matter. What are we doing right now to stop racist violence? There are community members and organizations who have been doing this work. Why are you not working with them? Why are you not seeking counsel with people of color leaders like Teresa Rayford? If members of our community want to go out and protest this upcoming white supremacist rally on Sunday, they will be at risk for violence from not only these Nazis, but also Portland police. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
It's Lovely to see your faces again after a very long time. My name is Allison Sosa. I'm not going to bash the police, although FTP always. And as a person of color, I don't have the luxury of calling the police. I was raped in October on the hood of a car by a stranger, and I didn't call the police. I went back to work working for the DPO. I acted like it was a normal day. That didn't shock me, and it shouldn't shock anybody here in this room. 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men encounter domestic violence. It doesn't matter how we look at it, how we paint it. It's an issue that continually gets ignored, and we're like, oh, it's great, we're gonna wear a little ribbon and it's gonna be awesome, and oh, awareness, you know what I mean? But yes, there is a systemic problem with the police being racist. And for me, coming into this situation and knowing and seeing all of you do your job, my job is to educate my children, to weaponize myself with my education, and that's what I've done. I'm not somebody who wants notoriety. I'm not somebody that feels like I necessarily need help because I have my community. What I cannot stand by is seeing people not make a livable wage. I've been texting a friend actually just now because she lives in South Carolina, and she is my only source of support in this matter because she is as much of a fighter as I am. When we're talking about 40% of police families encounter domestic violence and 20% of combat veterans, of which I am a veteran, you know, I am a domestic, violence survivor, I don't ever feel safe. I don't feel safe in this room. I'm one of less than 8 people of color. So when you talk about don't interrupt, you're silencing me. And I don't appreciate it. I've worked hard to get to where I am. I was a street kid. I came back after traveling the world, and yet Portland has not changed. It's the 4th night of Ramadan. I spent 5 years overseas, and I spent this weekend breaking iftar over at the Met because that's the only place I felt at peace. It's the only place I felt safe. And I purposely didn't come the night of the vigil to iftar because you were going to be there, Ted. I don't feel like your opinion is credible to me. I don't think it applies to me. And it's not fair that I get to sit in a room while my friends are outside because they speak up. So I'll bite my tongue and sit in this chair and thank you for your time.
Last person who signed up is Edith Gillis.
I'm Edith Gillis, and I'm holding up my right hand as a stop sign, but also as a visual reminder that the only way you can stop violence, domestic violence, police violence, fascist violence, is to address the entire hand of violence. Now, we talk about the tallest finger being the bad guy, and that's the only one. Or just the little thumb, the victim sucking their thumb, feeling sorry for themselves, they asked for it. But it's also the pointer finger that points out who's allowed to be abused. Houseless, poor, mentally ill, people of color, First Nations, gender minorities, religious minorities, political activists. They're pointed out as the ones that's okay to impoverish, to terrorize, to traumatize, to abuse. And then there's the ring finger, those who feel wedded to this violence, who make excuses. Oh, I can't do anything about it, I'm just doing my job. And the little pinky says, oh, I'm just a little witness, I can't do anything about it. Well, we've got to stop. In the Judaic, the Christian, and the Muslim tradition, we are demanded to be right witnesses, to be upstanding and support those. Leviticus 19:33 says, love your neighbors yourself, care for those who are strangers and oppressed, remember you were like them too, and open your heart and your home to them. We need to do that. Now, how can you, at the City Council, do something to stop domestic police and other violence? Is to say no to hiring police who are coming from the military, who are bringing the same fake weapons at the scene like they do with the so-called improvised explosive devices. They'll put on the scene and pretend that the person they just murdered was a terrorist or an insurgent. We've had 2 guns on the same day, fake, put out there as false evidence where there was no excuse if they had been real guns to kill those people. I have known that most of the police force, and I'm hearing this from police themselves because there are a few good ones, saying that most of them are fascists who are using fear and force to get their way, to terrorize and control folks. And most of them are domestic violence abusers. When I've called the Portland police to protect us from abusers, they refuse to come. We had been terrorized by someone, broken in at our home, destroyed property, raped me, and a police officer came to my home because I cannot get a restraining order. Because the restraining order in the state of Oregon, I've tried to have Portland advocate for me that the restraining order should not be limited to family members or sexual partners. This was a neighbor, a criminal defense attorney. We need to be able to expand it so that the police don't come in and say, no, don't ever come when she calls, and verbally abuse me worse than all the abusers. My mother was killed because of racism and domestic violence. The same railroad tracks that were unsafe and killed Modocs and Klamath, dozens of them were not noticed and not changed. But when a white woman, the daughter of a multimillionaire, was killed, same purpose, same place, oh, suddenly her life matters. Well, every life matters, and you can make sure that in how you talk about folks, how you schedule your time, who you welcome here, what kind of policies you have, how you control who is hired, who is supervised, who is fired, and that you have records of police not be closed so that the good cops are not allowed to go up, and the bad cops given away and again. We've had cops kill or brutalize almost everyone in my neighborhood. You've got to stop that. And you can. It's in your hands.
Thank you. Appreciate it. One more?
Someone else wanted to speak. Yeah, come on up.
And folks, I want to apologize. I'm going to have to leave fairly soon.
Mayor,
but
we
will
actually
hear-
have emergency ordinances coming.
Yes, no, I understand.
So I think we got to get through the agenda.
Okay, well, I can't stay because there is something else related to what we are all talking about that I need to attend to. So maybe we can,
Tomorrow.
we'll just have to do them tomorrow. Sorry. Sorry for the interruption.
I'm Bati Alan. I have never spoke here either, but I want to just speak on domestic violence being expanded as well to domestic terrorists. Because yesterday, when we were at the arraignment, there was a man who came who said he was a friend of Jeremy Christian. He was wearing red laces, which we know speaks to white supremacy, specifically that he has shed or spilled blood for his cause. We know that for a fact. He admitted that he was Christian's friend. He was escorted kindly out of the building, and we were told we were safe because he went across the street. None of us felt safe. We went outside the building scared that they were around the corner. We know that's what they do. We know that they communicate and they want to hurt us. When we came to your office to ask for protection for our community, we were placated and told to go away. So I left yesterday having no faith in your ordinances or your care for this community, because that was a real circumstance that our community needed protection, and we were basically ignored. And that's all I want to say today.
Thank you. Is that it?
That's all.
Great. Call the roll.
Fish.
Aye.
Udaly.
I want to thank city and county staff for coming up with a plan to make our domestic violence reduction unit more efficient, more effective, expand the hours, and better ensure that domestic violence survivors have a consistent advocate to guide them through the system. Aye.
Fritz.
I thank those testifiers who actually referenced what we're talking about today and the $14 to $16 an hour. Mayor, I'm concerned that the Police Bureau was able to find $332,000 within their budget to reassign to this, when we've just been through a very difficult budget exercise. It begs the question of why was this amount of money available, and I'm really glad that it's going to this cause. And I also want to reflect and report on what I heard from the at the iftar on Saturday from Wajdi Saeed. And he was talking to his community and said that the Muslim, Shiite and Sunni people need to figure out how to get along. He says, we're all Muslims. And what I'm feeling today in response to the challenges that we've heard over the past week and more, we are all devastated also. And we're all on the same side. We want to stop this hatred from gaining a grip in our society. So as hard as it is, we've got to figure out how to do that. And Mayor, I thank you for your leadership of the police and in this tragedy. Thank you, Commissioner Daly, for your work as the President of the Council and speaking for us last week and over the weekend. Aye.
Wheeler.
I appreciate what people were saying today, and I know people are hurting and they're struggling and they're trying to find the center, and they're trying to find what, where, and who in this community that they can rely on and who they can trust. And I heard loudly and clearly for many of the people testifying, you do not think I am that individual, and I can accept that. But I'm also going to say this. I started my day by being called a Nazi. I started my day by being accused of perpetrating murders that were committed in this community last week. I have been threatened by people on all sides of the political spectrum. And I want you to know this from me personally, because I don't think I've done a very good job of letting people into who I actually am and what I actually stand for. And I want you to know I stand with you in opposition to the hate and the violence and the bigotry and the terrorism that took place in this community on Friday. Now, we're not going to build a trusting relationship overnight. You don't know me. You don't know me. And what I would ask for is, whether you hate me or not, we're stuck together for the next 3.5 years. So let's figure out how we can work together. Let's try, all right? Let's try. Let's see if we can work together and make some real progress in a community that is hurting. And that's my goal. I'm going to do my level best to protect everybody's safety on Saturday. I'm going to do my level best. And as I say, Sunday, and I'm working with lots of people in this community to help make that happen. I think we can show the world that we can have disputes, that people can have their First Amendment rights respected. And at the end of the day, my goal is to make sure everybody goes home to their families. That's what I want. That's what's in my heart right now. That's where I am. And so I have heard what you've said, and I appreciate those of you who've come up to express honestly and forthrightly your opinions, and I'm hearing what you're saying. I just want you to know that. I don't even remember if I voted, so I'll vote again. Aye. The ordinance is adopted. Thank you.
Mayor, before you adjourn, I need to make a request.
Please.
I'm sorry, you
Yeah,
seem
no
like you're
worries.
on a roll. I'm going to be gone next week, so I'm requesting that item 608 be held over for one additional week.
Item 608 be held over for one additional, so not next week, but the week after that. Is
Yes,
that correct?
yes.
Is there any objection?
Well, let me propose a counter proposal on this.
Commissioner Fish?
My understanding is we had the votes.
Stand with us on Sunday. Wear black.
Stand with us on Sunday.
My understanding, colleagues, is that we had the votes today to put an emergency clause on 608 and simply pass those portions that we agreed to last week and then have the other matters come back at the end of the month as we agreed. So,
Actually, no, Commissioner, I'm not willing to do that. I'm not willing to support what's on the table.
okay, your chief of staff represented that you were, so that's what we were acting upon. So I won't make the motion.
Okay, very good. So is there any objection to moving this to 2 weeks, 608? Just to be clear, is there a problem? Okay, let's do that. So item 607, as we discussed earlier, we can do that next week. And item 608 we'll hold over for 2 weeks. So, because I would like Commissioner Daly to be here for that. I think it's important that she be here. And I realize that by my leaving now, there are some emergency items that we're also going to have to move, presumably to tomorrow afternoon, if that works for people. Or we'll sort it out. We'll figure it out. I'll have Kristen work with the staffs, and we'll figure it out.
Oh, just so you know, Mayor, I've had a long planned vacation, and I won't be in the Thursday meeting tomorrow. I'm away for the next several days.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. I'll see what the situation is with Dan. We'll
Well,
sort it
Dan's-
out.
if Dan's
Will
not
anybody
here-
be here this afternoon at 2?
I'm sorry?
2 o'clock this afternoon?
We could do that.
Sure.
Would that work?
Why don't we just set over the rest of the agenda till 2 o'clock?
And I'll clarify, Commissioner, what you were asking on
Good.
number 08.
And folks, just so you understand, with emergency ordinances, there has to be a minimum of 4 of us present, and therefore we can't continue on this agenda. So we'll set over the rest of the agenda until 2 p.m. today. I'm sorry for those of you who are inconvenienced by that. Thank you. We're adjourned.